I want to talk about something today that almost every person who's ever kept fish in captivity will experience at one point or another, and explain that there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. Here's the scenario. If this hasn't happened to you yet, it will. I can almost guarantee it. You're doing your routine maintenance and notice something out of the corner of your eye moving in the corner. As you investigate, you realize it's not a piece of uneaten food or a big old piece of fish poop. It's a baby fish. This has happened to me more times than I can count. In fact, it happens every time I do maintenance on my 240-gallon yellow lab tank. Those fish reproduce like crazy, and the babies typically hide, but once in a while they'll poke their little heads out, and it's the cutest thing you've ever seen. One of the most memorable times this happened to me was way back in 2010. The scenario was exactly what I just laid out. I'm in there gravel vacuuming and noticed a baby fish, then another, and another. I had a piece of slate in there standing vertical in the back of the tank, and there was about 40 peacock fry hiding back there. This was a really big deal, and it totally freaked me out. I called Lisa, because we weren't living together yet, and said, "You've got to get over here and see this." She did, and as you'd expect, she was like, "Oh my God, they are so cute. We have to save them." I totally agreed, and we immediately ran out to PetSmart and got a 10-gallon aquarium, filter, and everything else we needed to get it going. We brought it back, used media from the other tank to jumpstart the cycling process, and moved all the babies over. I actually put the fry tank in my bedroom on a dresser, and we just sat there at the foot of my bed staring at them. It was so much fun, and it actually felt like an accomplishment, because if we hadn't done what we did, they all would have gotten eaten by the adults. For the next month or so, every time Lisa came over, the first thing she'd say is, "We got to go check on the babies." And this also served as a great reason for us to say, "Hey kids, we're going to go check on the fish babies, and we're going to close the door because we don't want to scare them." Hey, when you got 5 kids running around, you got to find any excuse you can to do you know what I mean? Anyway, our plan was simple. We're going to raise up these little babies and add them to a bigger tank with all the adults we already had. This was great because it was like 40 free fish. As long as you don't count the cost of the fry tank, the extra food, chemicals, and maintenance, but hey, it felt like they were free fish. But then it happened. The adults did it again. See, just like Lisa and I were always looking reasons to go in the bedroom and lock the door, adult fish are always looking for the opportunity to do their little dance too. And unless you remove the females, you can't stop this. So what do? We've got this 75-gallon full of adult peacocks that are breeding like crazy. We already saved a batch of fry, and now there's another one. Well, we went out and got another tank. Duh. This time I got a 29-gallon. Moved the first batch of fry that had grown quite a bit over to that and put the new batch of fry in the 10-gallon. Then eventually I got a 150-gallon for the adults, so I had 4 levels of tanks. A 10-gallon for the newborns, a 29 as they got a little bigger, then a 75 as they continued to grow, and finally the 150 was at the end of the line. It was perfect. Until it wasn't. I was too dumb to stop the adults from spawning, so we just kept getting new batches of fry over and over again. A lot of people would have seen this as a problem, but not us. We were having the time of our lives, and this is what Lisa and I would both describe as the most fun we've ever had as fish keepers. We ended up getting more and more tanks, separating the adults out into strain-specific tanks so we could breed what we wanted, and before you knew it, KGTropicals was born. Now listen, I know you might be freaking out at this point thinking, wait a minute, is he saying everyone who's ever had an aquarium ends up buying tons of tanks to raise fry? If that's the case, I'm out. No, in fact, I didn't mean to go off on a tangent like that. I actually told that story to make a bigger point, and that's that when, and yes, I said when you end up with a surprise batch of fry and you decide to raise them up, at some point you're going to be faced with a dilemma. How do I get rid of all these fish? Yeah, sure. If you only have one batch, that's an easy problem to solve. But if you decide to lose your mind like Lisa and I did, you're going to end up with tons of fish you got to get rid of. You think it'll be easy, but trust me, it's not. This is why Lisa and I started our website. We made the decision very early on that this was how we were going to get rid of the fish. We started the site back in 2012 and it's gone through a lot of different phases since then, but the original idea was to sell fish. But what about you? What are you going to do? Well, there's options. First would be friends and family, but if you're like me and don't have any friends that aren't already in the industry, this might not be an option. You could try selling them on Facebook Marketplace if you really don't value your safety and like having complete strangers come to your house to buy fish. Yeah, good luck with that. And yes, there's the option of starting up your own website and probably 20 more examples of tricks to get rid of your fish. And when I say get rid of, I mean sell them. I don't mean get rid of. You know what I'm saying? Inevitably, you're going to end up saying, hey, if this becomes a problem, I'll just take them to my local fish store and sell them to them. This is a good option, but this is exactly my point of this video. There's a right way and a wrong way to do this. You want to start off with the wrong way? All right, that sounds like fun. The wrong way to sell fish to your local fish store is to walk in there like you're doing the store a favor by bringing them the best fish ever. You walk in thinking, well, these fish are locally bred and raised in ideal conditions, so they're worth way more than the fish they're buying from the farms. They're not. In theory, are they more valuable? Yeah, but the reality is fish stores are in the business of making money, and overpaying for hobbyist bred fish isn't part of that. In fact, it's not outrageous to think they'll actually pay you less because they don't have a track record with you. Sure, your fish might be amazing, but they don't know that. What they do know is they've had success with the farms they buy from. One of the general rules of thumb is to assume that they buy their fish for about 25% of the retail value. So a fish that's for sale for $4, they would have paid around $1 for. This comes as quite a shock for most new fish sellers because they're thinking, well, buy them from me for $3 and sell them for $4. This way, every fish you sell, you're making $1. Yeah, keep dreaming. I actually had this happen to me so many times I can't even count. Arrogant fish breeders walking in thinking they're growing the best fish out there that are worth way more than the reality says they are. But then I also had the opposite of that, which is a great example of the right way to do this. I'll never forget this as long as I live. The day Lisa and I opened our store, we had a customer come in carrying a huge bag with like 30 adult angels in it. His name was Dave Warren, and you can actually see him on the channel. I did a series of videos with him way back in the day on how to breed angelfish. Check it out if you're interested. Anyway, he walks in with these incredible black lace angels, and they were huge and probably worth $30 a piece retail. He puts them up on the counter and says, "You want these?" Lisa and I had literally put every dime we had into opening this store, so I was completely busted. I said, "Man, these are super nice, but I'm not sure I can buy them right now." He said, "Oh, no, I'm not selling them to you. I'm giving them to you. And when they all sell in a couple days and you want more, give me a call. That's when we can talk money." I feel like if there was a camera on me at the time, it would have been a viral video because I was like, huh? But guess what happened? I put those angels in the tanks and just as predicted, they all sold within a week. And I wanted more. I called him up and he said, "How many do you need?" I said, "Well, wait a minute. I need to know how much I'll be paying for these." And he said, "Don't even worry about that. Just tell me how many you need." I said, "How about the same amount you brought before? Maybe a few more depending on how much they cost." He said, "All right, I'll be right there." Maybe a half hour goes by and there he is with another big bag of fish. Now, it has to be said, Dave had a job where he worked from home and only lived about 5 minutes away. It's not like he had a DeLorean or something. He put these fish on the counter and I said, "All right, let's talk money. And this is when he blew my mind. He said, okay, I have a good friend that owns a fish store in Maryland, and he always lets me look at the lists from different suppliers of fish. So I know you can buy angels this size from this farm for about $5 a piece and $6 a piece from this other farm. That's why I'm going to sell them to you for $3 a piece. I said, wait, what just happened? He said, listen, you can get these fish anywhere. I don't do this for a living. It's just a fun hobby for me. And to be honest, you're doing me just as much of a favor as I'm doing for you. So this is a scenario where everyone wins. That is an example of how to sell fish to fish stores. Don't go in there thinking you're going to break the bank with your special fish, especially when you're talking about things like African cichlids, angels, and live bearers. These are fish available for super cheap from tons of farms out there. It's a really hard sell to try to convince a fish store to pay you $10 a piece when they can get them from a farm for $4 a piece. I know you think your fish are special, and I understand the amount of work that goes into raising them. I'm just trying to open your eyes to how this all works. If you want to make top dollar, sell the fish on your own, whether it be through a website or whatever. Just sell them on your own for retail prices. If you want to get rid of a lot of them very quickly, that's when you should turn to fish stores. But understand, they are doing you just as much a favor as you're doing for them. Don't go in there thinking you're going to get rich. Anyway, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this story and got something out of it. And if you did and you want to support what we're doing, you can do that by subscribing, becoming a channel member, and joining us on our members-only live streams on Friday nights, where we bring in a panel of members to talk fish with us, or just check out our website, keepfishkeeping.com. Also, if you have a story that you'd like to share with me that I could potentially turn into a video, you can send an email to kgtropicals@gmail.com. Give me as much detail as possible, and maybe I'll turn it into a story for a video. That's it. Bye.